English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Hello everyone, as requested, a video of how I set up my microphone, camera and helmet for recording vlogs. I found out that quite a lot of people have problems reducing the wind noise on these motocross helmets, obviously because they got no visor. If you're riding with goggles like I do, you get a lot of wind noise inside of the helmet. So you have to put a little bit more effort into reducing the wind noise. So I spent some time on finding out what works, what doesn't work. So as you can see, I've mounted the drift with the curved mount to the side of the helmet. The problem with the motocross helmets seems to be that there's a little button on the side where the strap is mounted. Hope you can see that. So I cut out a little piece of this grey 3M tape, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to push it all the way down to the helmet. I first mounted it with all the tape on it, so I guess that's why there's still that little gap here. So I recently ordered a new one and I will prepare that. But it sticks perfectly to the helmet, so I didn't lose the camera. The reason I put it into exactly that place is compared to the GoPro cameras, you don't have too much choice to adjust in that plane or around that axis. It's just the way the mount works. So you take the camera, set it on preview and check on your screen until the orientation is like you want it. And that is the position I found out, so I had no choice to cut this out. I first tried to use Velcro like Spicy does, but it didn't stick to the surface too good, and I didn't want to sand the helmet, so I just took this one. Well, the next thing to adjust the camera is pretty straightforward, because you just have to tilt the lens and you're done basically. And the third axis of which you have to adjust is the mount that clips into here on the camera itself, but you can tilt it quite easily. Next one's microphone. I bought a couple of different cheap microphones from Amazon, and I ended up with something like this. So standard cheap microphone, I believe it was around 3 or 4 quid. I put a link in the description. I choose that one because it had the best sound, so I tried 4 or 5 different microphones. So the next thing I bought was this little piece here, a wind muff or windshield or dead cat, however you want to call it. Right, so the dead cat. And you just put that onto the microphone with the spongy foam inside. You will end up with something like this. You got to know the performance of this windshield depends on where the wind comes from. So obviously if the wind comes into the back, the performance is very poor. Second worst is if they are pointed with the nose, or say with the top, into the wind, like this. And the best performance is actually if they are set up right in a 90-degree angle to the wind. So if the wind comes from the right, this is the best position for the microphone. I tried with the microphone somewhere inside the helmet, or basically where the ear is, so about here, but the performance was poor, so I decided to put it into the cheek pad. So here's my cheek pad. I cut it off in here where there's the best protection against the wind, so I didn't cut it off here because that's exactly where the wind comes from the front. And then you just shove the microphone into the cheek pad, and I shoved it behind the padding so it sits on the inside of the cheek pad. First try. So shove it in here. I hope I don't fuck up my setup while doing this video. So, should be upright like this now. Remember the wind's coming from here. And then you got this, all this stuff dangling around. You can shove it into the Cheekpad like this. Of course, behind the padding as well, because otherwise you will feel that while riding. You don't want that. Right, all nice and tidy. So, I tried this setup first, but then I found out that the performance is still quite poor, which is, as you can see, here's some mesh fabric, so there's still quite a lot of wind coming through. So what I did is I sewed myself a custom wind muff or custom dead cat for the Cheekpad itself. I'll show you how it looks like. It looks like that. And here's where the little button goes through in the back. The way you do it is quite simple. You just get some furry cloth or furry fabric. I bought this from obviously from a fabric shop. And the way you start is quite easy as well. You don't want to start with the outside out, because if you want to prepare that for sewing, you will have to do it inside out, because otherwise you will not be able to sew it properly. So you start, as I've said, inside out and wrap it around the Cheekpad. I recommend you keep, say, 1 inch, and then you want to do it rather tight, like this. Alright, and then you start fixing that temporarily. So you take some pins. This is pretty basic sewing stuff. Take some pins and secure that thing together. Like that. And you do it with, I say, another needle here, and you're done basically. Then you cut off that bit, and then as you put it together with the pins, you know where you have to sew. So you start sewing that shape. And when you're done, you trim it, and then you just turn it inside out. So I can show you how it looks like with this one. So I would have sewed it like that. You see the white lines, and then you just turn it inside out. If you have no idea how to do this, ask your mom, and then slip it onto there. And you're done. So place it inside of the helmet. Oh yeah, the stuff you need for the sewing. Pins, needles, not too small because you won't get the thread through, and thread, easy. You want to have the cable inside of the helmet first, and it should go around that button, so that's my plan, like this. The last button should be the one with the felt, because that's the hardest bit. Done that. Alright, and here's your cable left, and in my case I can just put it through here quite easily behind the Cheekpad, and then I just take the camera and put the cable in through that little hole, like that, and you're done. One modification you need to do to the microphone jack is you have to cut it down because it's usually a bit wider, as you can slightly see in the back here, and it wouldn't fit through the hole. And when I'm not logging, I just hide the cable around here, and we're done. Easy. Any questions? Write in the comments, please. See you next time.